Throughout human history, many great empires have risen to power and fallen to dust. Hello and welcome to For the Sake of Curiosity. My name is Tommy and these are the 5 largest empires to ever exist. The Spanish Empire was one of the largest empires in history. It reached the peak of its military, political, and economic power under the Spanish Habsburgs through most of the 16th and 17th centuries, and its greatest territorial extent under the House of Bourbon in the 18th century, when it was the largest empire in the world. The Spanish Empire became the foremost global power of its time, and was the first to be called the empire on which the sun never sets. The Spanish Empire lasted from 1492 to 1975, its greatest territorial holdings being 13.7 million kilometers squared. The Qing Dynasty was the last imperial dynasty of China, established in 1636 and ruling China from 1644 to 1912 with a brief restoration in 1917. It was preceded by the Ming Dynasty and succeeded by the Republic of China. The Qing multicultural empire lasted almost 3 centuries and formed the territorial basis for the modern Chinese state. Its greatest territorial landmass was 14.7 million kilometers squared. The Russian Empire was one of the largest empires in history, stretching over 3 continents. The rise of the Russian Empire happened in association with the decline of neighboring rival powers, the Swedish Empire, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, the Persian, and the Ottoman Empire. It played a major role in 1812 through 1814 in defeating Napoleon's ambitions to control Europe and expanded to the west and south. It lasted from 1721 to 1917, and its greatest territorial landmass was 22.8 million kilometers squared. The Mongol Empire was formed and lasted throughout the 13th and 14th centuries and was the largest contiguous land empire in history. Originating in the steppes of Central Asia, the Mongol Empire eventually stretched from Central Europe to the Sea of Japan, extending northward into Siberia, eastwards and southwards into the Indian subcontinent, Indochina, and the Iranian Plateau, and westwards as far as the Levant and Arabia. Its greatest territorial holdings was 24 million kilometers squared. The British Empire comprised the dominions, colonies, protectorates, mandates, and other territories ruled or administered by the United Kingdom and its predecessor states. It originated with the overseas possession and trading posts established by England between the late 16th and 18th centuries. At its height, it was the largest empire in history and, for over a century, was the foremost global power. By 1913, the British Empire held sway over 412 million people, and by 1920, it covered 35 million square kilometers. At its peak of power, the phrase, "the empire on which the sun never sets," was often used to describe the British Empire, because its expanse around the globe meant that the sun was always shining on at least one of its territories. And those were the 5 largest empires to ever exist. Make sure to go ahead and give that like button a gentle tap and subscribe to the channel. It'll help us grow and be blessed by that almighty YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video.